Assalamu alaikum, friends. Welcome all of you to our program where we talk about trade-related topics. Today, from global marketplaces, we will talk about Amazon, which is one of the companies with the largest shares. Our guest today is MehmetAkifBirkan. Welcome, first of all.
Welcome. Hello.
How are you?
Thank you. How are you?
Thank you. In this time of pandemic, in other words, with the curfews and going out, a certain trade, real trade, has now shifted to e-commerce. Yes, related to this, marketplaces have grown significantly. In other words, e-commerce has grown significantly all over the world. Turkey is now trying to catch up with this flow, but we don't know exactly where it is now. So the numbers say it's a little further behind. But we hope to catch it in the world market. At this point, of course, it has the most customers all over the world. Today we will talk about Amazon, which is one of the largest companies in terms of sales and market share. Amazon related. Let's go through a few questions and answers. Yes, let me ask you some questions.
Of course.
After that, let's do something. First of all, I want to start with Amazon's business models. What are Amazon's business models? Well, what kind of sales and business models do we encounter when any of us enter Amazon?
Let's start like this. In fact, with the pandemic you just mentioned, trade has gained serious momentum, both in our country and in the world, with the effect of the pandemic as a push force, or what we call a booster. However, of course, Amazon, which is the leader of this sector, is now almost 8 times ahead of its closest rival, both in terms of customer service and sales, and in many numbers and details, of course. Amazon. It's not just actually in the American continent, or, I'm giving an example, Turkey or other places. In fact, with many marketplaces and many countries working together, this business has achieved a serious development there, most recently, for example, in the Arabian Peninsula. Let's give examples of its other recipes. As it is actually a global marketplace, it is much ahead of Walmart. Now, if we ask what business models there are actually 3 main business models at the core of meat trade. Let's start with the simplest of these. We call this stockless trading, which we generally call drop shipping. This is called buying and selling a good from one marketplace to another, and only buying and selling without keeping any stock. Secondly, what we call arbitrage model is actually a buy and sell, but this time you buy with stock. So, I give an example. A good or product is purchased in bulk from country X and purchased in another country. It is sold in that marketplace or another marketplace. Finally, we have a business model that we call private label. The private label business model is actually its own. It means selling the product you produce or making an agreement with a manufacturer and selling his product. So if a product is already sold in a marketplace, when you buy and sell it, this is arbitrage. If you have a product produced or manufactured, if you are a manufacturer, and that product is not currently sold in that marketplace, it is called private label, and you are actually building a new brand. This is what private label is. Apart from these 3, there are generally 1 or 2 different sub-breakdowns, but these 3 business models are the main basis.
Okay, so our topic is, without going too far, what are the pros and cons of these business models? Which business model has what pros? Which business model has what cons? So which ones do you recommend? At the point of these global marketplaces, such as Amazon, what are the cons and pros of dropshipping? What are the cons and pros of arbitrage, etc.? If you briefly evaluate these.
Let's answer this way. Now let's start from the same order again. Now the plus of dropshipping is this. Since you do not keep any stock, you do not actually invest a large amount of capital. Therefore, this is a serious advantage for many of our friends. In fact, many of our new friends do dropshipping for this reason. But we talk a little more about Amazon. Let's give an example from there. The biggest disadvantage of the dropshipping business model is that While living in Turkey, for example, when you buy and send a product to a customer in Canada on Amazon.com, that is, in America, you do not see this product. Interested friends will know this if you do not use it in an intermediate warehouse. For example, if that product is broken or has an opened edge or has a problem with its packaging, when it is delivered to the customer, this customer will have a problem. So they may give negative feedback, or for example, they may complain about you. Marketplaces do not want this because it actually brings complaints from the marketplace. So this is the biggest disadvantage of dropshipping. Since you can't be anywhere in the world, they actually found a one-click solution for this. An intermediate warehouse is used. Even if we use an intermediate warehouse, you can sell the product in the same country because it is not in the same country there. But since it is not generally like that, the delivery time of the product is a little late. And this is the biggest disadvantage due to anything that may happen on the way. And Amazon, for example, is very strict in this regard. If possible, it wants dropshipping to be done with the strictest policies. Other marketplaces are also like this. eBay is actually a little more relaxed in this regard. Secondly, in arbitrage, which we call plus or minus, a budget is also required. A serious budget is required. If you live in Turkey and are going to buy products from anywhere abroad, it could actually be, say, England. You have to convert our money into pounds. It could be America. You have to convert it to dollars. Of course, now there are minimum quantity orders in this TL dollar or TL pound parity. In other words, a company tells you that if you want to buy my goods, you have to buy at least 5,000 of them. Or you have to buy a minimum of $10,000. Now it depends on whether you take this risk and how much. This is more valid in marketplaces than the dropshipping business model. And more because you are unloading a product into your warehouse there. There they are relabeled, etc., and boxed and sent back to Amazon warehouses. Finally, the private label business model is actually a product of our meat trade community in general. For example, we have friends from Turkey who work hard at Etsy, outside of Amazon, because you can sell such local products on Etsy. Its advantage and disadvantage is that private label is a business that requires serious knowledge. While you are building a brand, from keywords to how you advertise, it is a matter of building a brand not only in that marketplace, but also outside the marketplace. Organizing all of this and supporting it in terms of budget is a serious cost. Apart from this, there is a risk whether a product will be successful or not. We still ship the product sold in the arbitrage model. We sell because we found it cheaper. But with a private label, you assume this risk and you do the certifications, licensing for that product in the relevant country. Let's say from here, let's say a friend of ours in Turkey wanted to make a private label. It has a factory, it produces product X. So when you send it to another country, there will be some documents they ask for. Providing these documents is also a cost. Apart from these documents, dealing with them is also a time and extra workload. Therefore, private label, as I said among traders, it is known as the nirvana of this business. But the best and most beautiful one is private label. Of course, after gaining serious knowledge.
So what do we need to sell on Amazon? So we're starting from scratch. What do we need to know? What infrastructures do we need to have information on?
Let's put it this way. Now, to sell on Amazon, you need one account and one account. You need to open an account there. Two types of accounts can be opened. It can be opened individually. But Amazon also supports the individual to some extent. They're giving permission. Then he asks for insurance, etc. There are some details. It actually forces you to start a company. Secondly, you can open your account with the company. Of course, the best thing is to trade according to our understanding. Therefore, it is done with the company. Meanwhile, in marketplaces in Turkey, it's gone, it's going, except that it's gone, it's going. But yesterday, they declared that they will close it down. For example, if you want to go and open a shop on the railway, you cannot open it without a company. In fact, Amazon is one of the few platforms that allows this. I can even say that it comes first. But as I said, it only allows this to a certain extent. Let's go back to the question of what we need. We said account. It can be opened with a company or individually. Secondly, now we need a sufficient level of knowledge because there is a serious source of free information on this subject in our country on YouTube. But he also brings this dirty source of information with him, as in everything. Therefore, I am giving examples from people you trust. For example, we have a significant number of videos on MehmetAkifBirkan's YouTube channel, more than 100, and we provide that information to many of our friends for free. You need to find them, find sources they can trust, and actually reach that sufficient level of knowledge. Or there are groups on Facebook where such communities gather. You need to join these groups and get information from there. I say again, you need to filter the dirty information a bit yourself. Apart from that, of course, why am I pointing my finger here? Because when someone comes with no knowledge, it should not be said that while doing business, the caravan is on the road. This time, serious damage is caused while doing business. We even have friends who get discouraged and give up on it. Therefore, we need a good level of knowledge to be able to do it. We need to learn. By the way, free information can also be obtained from foreign sources. Of course, we also have local resources. Apart from that, we will open an account. After opening an account, we need to analyze the product to make sales. We need to know and learn this analysis. There are some trainings for these. We can get them. Apart from the analysis, we sold the product. Now money will come. Actually, we call them intermediate banks. The intermediate bank is opened and the money is transferred to you. Then, of course, there is something else to this. So look, meat trading is not just about buying and selling products. Then, of course, there is the taxation and accounting part of this. This business model can be made by obtaining information on these issues, learning and even getting professional support if necessary. In particular, I can say this. Many companies come from Turkey, especially. They definitely need to sell abroad. We seriously support this. These people, we always say that, if they could actually get a taste of it, maybe after a while they could focus more on this. But of course, it seems like a cloud of dust to them. We are trying to make it a little clearer in various media. When we do these, we actually want many of our companies, many brands from our country to be partners. That is SMEs, small businesses or partners. It can even happen in large companies. We aim to gradually bring these to a minimum.
Actually, it was nice of you to say me. I was going to ask this too. Now, for example, in our country, if something is digital or internet related, people already look at it with some prejudice. Therefore, most manufacturers and most traders in our country, for example, are online related. They either have such taboos or such fears. What if we enter? Can we do it? Or is it necessary to invest such serious amounts of money? Since there are foreign companies here, I wonder what might happen to us. There are some fears like this. Actually, I want to talk about what can be done to overcome these fears, because this is what I call Amazon. Even in the utility market, this is where the train was. After that, it was AliExpress and Amazon again, selling here. In other words, there are many young people who go from 0 to 0 and reach very serious stores without even knowing the basics of commerce, isn't it? In other words, they started from scratch and came to a certain point. In fact, I believe that these large manufacturers should not remain indifferent to these e-commerce channels. But he has some fears, so how should they overcome these? Well, for example, the arbitrage you just described, even its name may seem scary. Here is the private label after that. Because the terms are unknown, things like dropshipping cannot be addressed in a way that makes one hostile to what one does not know. How should he overcome this fear?
So how can we encourage, first of all, what is actually a trader's favorite thing? Let me start by giving an example in this sense of profitability. Now in Turkey today, an entrepreneur who wants to do the simplest business can be young, middle-aged, or elderly. Let me ask you, how much budget should you allocate on average? He will open a shop and do something. It could be anything. What could happen? Whether it is selling books, selling clothes, selling food, offering something, or selling a service. In your opinion, what is the average minimum cost of doing this business under today's conditions? If you're asking me, I am the most like this. I think in Turkey, as they say, the minimum cost of an enterprise is 100,000 TL. Especially in today's conditions, this is higher, but I'm saying a very optimistic number. Now, the cost of trying something like this in e-commerce is a maximum of $5,000, just to say, let's see what happens. Maximum. And later, when you establish that shop, we call it return on investment, in the sense of return of investment. You can get the return on that investment 10 times more than what you bought from that shop. And so you actually catch a train in the future. First of all, I can say this, because it's much cheaper than trying something else, and they really shouldn't think like that, either the other way, but I have real goods. At worst, he sells it. I do something. There is no such thing here. No, is it okay? There is goods here too. You are trading. This is not a thing after all. Let's not think of it as something in the air, a cloud of dust. Secondly, I can say this. Now, I'm sure you said it right. There is a young generation. They do this job really well. Some of these young friends also have budget problems. What should we do then? We should be able to bring that young friend together with a merchant or, for example, a factory owner so that they can do business together, or vice versa. On the other hand, if our young friend has serious knowledge and is doing the right thing and wants to expand in another area, he can sell that gentleman's product. It can be done as a private lab. Therefore, this is also their perspective on young people. At this point, I wouldn't say it should change, but they need to be able to look at it this way. For example, today in Istanbul, as you know, there are hundreds of things in shops in Istok, for example, and they are sold. So do you know why I say that view should change today? I know this very well. I saw it with my own eyes. When you, as someone above the average age doing a certain trade, enter one of those shops, the treatment you receive and the way you are shown a product, etc., are not the same as our 19-year-old young friend. But I know very well that we have very bright young friends, 19 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old. They do this job really well. So in terms of encouraging them, because naturally after a certain age people do not want to start from scratch or learn some things, we can bring you together with these friends. Finally, I can say this. Of course, this person may not want to hand it over to a stranger, but he can do this. Then if this is a holding company, if there are several family members, that is, such a young person in the next generation, he or she can initiate this, and the company can direct some of them there. By the way, we are not saying that they should abandon conventional trade and do only this. This should actually open a way for him, support him, and maybe after 5 years, a few years, he will actually cross the other side. But an investment needs to be made in this. An investment needs to be made not only financially, but also intellectually. Of course.
Now, some companies related to this e-commerce, of course, cannot provide all of their services within their own company and outsource them. Yes, now as you said before, this is about e-commerce at the point of having family members, for example. Now, of course, it is necessary to get all the training related to e-commerce marketplaces and to do the job professionally after reaching a certain level of education by knowing everything completely. And you need to start by getting these from seriously good, decent places. However, companies can have some things happen at this point. For example, since they outsource some services, most services, they also want to outsource the parts related to these marketplaces. But at this point, frankly, I see a danger. And that is, I don't know if you would agree. Let me ask your opinion at this point. Now, for example, if I were someone who knew Amazon very well, when a company asked me for help, I helped that company. Well, the question that comes to my mind is this. If I already know Amazon so well, can I sell that company's product without working on behalf of that company? I can sell it, right? So why should I work for that company? In fact, companies create an e-commerce unit within their own structure and employ people there. In other words, it will still consist of family members within the company, or it may also consist of professionals.
Of course, it doesn't have to be like that, but within the same company.
Frankly, at this point, it is more on my mind that they should establish something, a unit. How do you think at this point?
Now, what you say is very true. First of all, friends, this is clear. Well, you may want to outsource this as you do certain services, but what I have seen and my experience shows this. Here, if you do not establish such a team yourself in order to be sustainable, this is actually the case in every business. Actually, this is not a big deal if you are constantly dependent on the outside. You know, now you are producing something, you are buying a part from outside. This is not addiction. In a way, this is actually doing business with him. But it doesn't make much sense to me to always get this kind of service from abroad. Of course, buy a lot of them, get training, learn this, teach your team. After all, as you know, in-company or external training is very common. This must be done. But I say again, what you say is actually very true. A unit should be established in itself. Some effort should be spent on this, and such a study should be carried out, perhaps aiming for a few years from now. And in the end, the fruits of these efforts come. But even if you stick to one place and do it consistently, as you said, various disagreements may arise tomorrow or the next day. When a disagreement arises, perhaps regarding your production or the other party's other issues, you may still be left in the middle after 3 years, having spent a significant amount of money and budget. Therefore, if possible, if you can do this as an intern in your own internal system, I say again, I think it is much more logical to go towards training. What you say is very true.
So, how big is Amazon in which countries? How much volume does it have? Which countries to start with? Which products are recommended for sale in which countries?
We can say this. First of all, it's not just actually for Amazon. For the world, America is a great consumer, and because of that great consumption, America is actually the biggest market there. Therefore, Amazon's biggest market is gathered together in 3 countries that we call North America. As America, Canada, and Mexico. That's the biggest market now. However, since it is the largest market, the biggest, or rather the most, competition is there. It's the place where the most products are launched. Now you are producing a product or you have invented something. Well, I found something, a product that you thought no one else had, but then you see that someone actually found it there and put it there. This happens a lot. Or you realize that a product you thought would sell was sold by 100 people, 300 people, 500 people before you. Therefore, no matter how competitive it is not just America, which has 360 or 380 million people. Since that market serves the world, the best market is actually the American market. There are 2 European markets. In Europe, there is Germany, Spain, England, and France in every country. Turkey has actually made a breakthrough in the last few years and is slowly starting to invest. Of course, there are actually many friends here who are theoretically interested in these issues. If there is a local player in the local market, like our Trending 11 are all here, it is incredibly difficult to compete with these local players and take that leadership from them within a few years. Otherwise, it's very simple. But we already have it. Therefore, investments have been made in Turkey in recent years. It exists in the Arabian Peninsula. It exists in Asia, Japan. There is Australia. In the Arabian Peninsula, there is the United Arab Emirates, and here is Saudi Arabia, and so on. So actually, the question you asked Amazon is good in this sense. It's everywhere, but it has an amazing feature. There is also Singapore, for example. The most important feature is this. In fact, when I list a product somewhere, I can sell that product all over the world by making the relevant settings. So this actually made Amazon already the market leader. Walmart has nothing in Turkey. In fact, you cannot even log in from Turkey IP. Now you will say that the year is 2022. A competitor is doing this. Now Walmart and Amazon are competitors. His opponent does this. You can enter from anywhere. You can do anything. You're still shutting down the IP there. I don't have a correct strategy. Therefore, it has reached a very serious place in terms of meat trade in the world. We will see it in our country in a few years. Even now, people who use it are very satisfied in our country. I also know from my relatives, because basically it actually targets something. Actually, let me explain America this way. America has now moved on to selling products. America sells satisfaction now. He does customer-oriented business. Therefore, since Amazon is also very customer-oriented, let me give you an example. You can laugh. Look, they make sales in such a way that I call out to young friends or manufacturers who produce something or want to make something. Companies and individuals make such good sales. When a customer buys this product and wants to return it, the vast majority generally say this: you can keep our product, let it be our gift. What was the price and how much did you pay? $20, $50. We refund it to you. They do such a thing to ensure customer satisfaction, but it already sells so much. Now you can say that I sold 100 goods and 10 were returned. Here, don't worry. It makes you sell so many goods because it brings a ready-made customer base. So this is an amazing thing. Of course, I would actually like to talk about this in another broadcast. This is a different model from your own website in Turkey, which is actually different from sites like Shopify. I think this is also very important, and this will also reach a serious peak in the future. Maybe those companies can even do this work within themselves. By combining these three pillars with advertising on these platforms, commerce platforms, on their own websites or compatible websites, such as Shopify, and on Google. On the other hand, look, if a company did this work patiently for a few years, I'm guessing they would leave it as it is. It's really normal. They abandon conventional trade and return here entirely, because the world turns here. Well, today our country has a beautiful unicorn, as you know, Bring. I even shared it on my own Instagram too, 3 days ago in New York on the subway. We saw your ad. So look, imagine that we are sitting at home today. We don't even go to the market. Maybe 5 years later they said, here is a metaverse. And maybe we will sit by the door of our house, put on our glasses, whatever we wear on our heads, pretend that we are actually shopping and order these for our home.
Even tactile screens, with touchable things, with VR glasses.
Exactly.
In other words, real retailing is gradually becoming completely virtual retailing.
Let me explain why. Actually, it is mathematics. And as a mathematician, let me tell you a little bit about the mathematics of the matter. Look, do you know why? Now, in normal conventional trade, the manufacturer is a logistics distributor, again a logistics wholesaler or whoever, again a logistics market, and again a logistics end user. Look, there were 5 stages. Meanwhile, logistics costs rise. Apart from that, working, etc., electricity, etc., etc. Now, this meat trade actually offers you such an opportunity that since the producer can directly reach the end user on these platforms, all the cons are removed. Now, sometimes people may ask this. Either I buy this from Getir or X is from a platform. I don't know how this can be so cheap, because he took all that stuff in between. It took 3-4 steps. There are thousands of items I might like here. Which ones work? I mean, SDK, etc. You can actually buy this product which you previously bought for 5 lira, cheaper online because it provides you with a great return directly there. And you don't spend any energy on these things. This is okay. It is not a good thing for a healthy life. But by sitting at home, what you want comes directly to you. Even for a while, maybe a few years later, maybe 10 years later, you know, it changes very quickly. This scissors has also become very narrow. Maybe, for example, working from home has increased as the pandemic has actually affected us a bit. Many companies now use it once a week, sometimes especially abroad. We like this kind of tactile feeling. Many companies are now doing more working online, not to say from home, but from anywhere, from home, pushing you online. Therefore, at the point where human life goes here, trade will also have to go here. Please call out to companies. We are especially calling out to the manufacturers and manufacturers of the country of which we are citizens, our hometown, our beautiful country, the Republic of Turkey. Please, this is meat trade. Don't do anything, that is, don't ignore it. Experiment with numbers that are too small for you. Employ young friends. We have very smart friends. You can achieve serious success with these friends. We already support many companies and friends in Turkey in this regard. You can disturb or call us whenever you want, as long as there is more than one from our country, just as there are a few today. Let the brand appear, let there be more things, let our country develop in this sense, and let foreign currencies enter our country. In other words, our pure national value will increase more easily through these means. It is a more effective method than other methods. This is what I think, of course. This is actually what I have to say in general. Here you go.
We thank you. We thank Mr. Mehmet Akif very much. We have come to the end of today's broadcast. Thank you for watching us. Hello.